It all began on a stormy autumn night. The wind howled through the empty streets of Ashford, rattling the old wooden shutters of the abandoned houses. Among these houses stood the old Whitmore estate, a mansion forgotten by time, its windows dark and its gates rusted. Locals whispered about it, claiming that anything or anyone who entered never returned the same. The legend, however, was only a story, until Jonathan Pierce, a young journalist with a taste for the macabre, decided to investigate. Armed with his camera, recorder, and a flashlight, he stepped through the iron gates, feeling a chill run down his spine. The door creaked open with a haunting groan, and he stepped inside. The foyer smelled of decay. Dust covered the grand staircase, and cobwebs hung like tattered curtains. Jonathan's flashlight flickered as he moved, illuminating portraits of stern-faced ancestors whose eyes seemed to follow him. Then he saw it. On a table in the center of the room stood a clock, unlike any he had ever seen. Its wood was dark and twisted, carved with symbols that seemed almost alive. Its face was cracked, yet the hands moved with perfect precision. Jonathan approached it cautiously. The closer he got, the heavier the air felt. There was a subtle ticking, but it wasn't synchronized with time. It felt wrong. The air around him grew colder, his breath visible in the dim light. Then he noticed the small inscription on the back. "Time will take all who dare to watch." He chuckled nervously. Creepy, but just a story, he thought. That night, he decided to film his investigation. The camera captured the shadows dancing across the walls as he spoke into the lens, describing the clock and the mansion's history. But when he reviewed the footage later, he noticed something chilling. In the reflection of the clock's glass, a pale face stared back at him, one he hadn't seen in the room. Ignoring it, he returned the next evening, determined to uncover the mansion's secrets. The moment he stepped inside, the clock began to chime. Midnight, although it was only 8 o'clock. Each chime echoed unnaturally, shaking the walls, vibrating through his very bones. Shadows twisted and writhed, forming figures that whispered incomprehensible words. Jonathan felt compelled to touch the clock. The moment his fingers grazed the wood, the mansion seemed to breathe around him. Doors slammed, windows shattered, and the whispers grew louder, almost intelligible. They said, "The time is yours now. The time is ours, forever." He tried to pull away, but the hands of the clock twisted unnaturally, pointing directly at him. The room spun violently, and suddenly he was no longer in the mansion, but standing in a void, a black nothingness, where the only thing visible was the cursed clock floating in midair. Its face turned toward him, and the hand spun faster and faster. Jonathan realized, with horror, that he could hear the passing of every second of his life. Each tick a reminder of every moment he had lived, and every moment he would never escape. A voice, hollow and echoing, whispered, "Every second taken, every soul claimed, the clock never stops." He screamed, but no sound came out. Panic consumed him as visions of those who had vanished before flashed before his eyes. A woman in a torn dress, a child clutching a broken toy, an old man staring with hollow eyes. They all reached for him, their hands stretching impossibly long, trying to pull him into the clock. Time twisted. Minutes felt like hours, hours like centuries. Jonathan's mind fractured as the cursed clock forced him to relive his worst memories, magnifying his fears and regrets. And then he saw something worse, the clock showing moments yet to come. Every mistake he would make, every sorrow, every loss, unfolding before him like a nightmare with no escape. Days, or maybe weeks, passed in what felt like seconds. He could no longer distinguish reality from illusion. The void was endless, and the cursed clock loomed larger, its ticking deafening. Every attempt to escape only drew him closer to its center. Then, unexpectedly, the clock stopped. Silence. Absolute silence. Jonathan fell to his knees, gasping, drenched in sweat. In the stillness, he noticed something new. Small scratches around the clock's face. Names, hundreds of them, carved with trembling hands. Jonathan Pierce. A cold wind blew, and the shadows returned. The same pale faces from the void surrounded him, whispering, "Time belongs to us, and now so do you." The next morning, neighbors reported strange noises from the abandoned Whitmore estate. Investigators found the mansion empty, except for the cursed clock, now silent and still on the grand table. No sign of Jonathan Pierce. Only the faint sound of ticking, as if the clock were alive, waiting for its next victim. Weeks later, a video appeared online, uploaded anonymously. It was Jonathan's footage, but the ending was different. As he stared into the clock, his eyes widened in terror, and then the screen went black. A single message appeared, typed in jagged letters. "Do not watch, or time will watch you." From that day, the cursed clock became a legend once more. People claimed to see it in abandoned houses, antique shops, and even in their dreams. Those who stared too long reported hearing whispers, seeing shadows, and feeling moments of their lives slip away. The curse was unrelenting, patient, and ever hungry. Some say the clock moves on its own, traveling from place to place, waiting for a new observer, a new victim. Others swear they've glimpsed Jonathan's pale face trapped behind its glass, silently screaming, eternally counting the seconds that will never end. And the truth is simple. Time is not just measured by the passing of seconds, minutes, and hours. Some time is alive, and the cursed clock. It collects every heartbeat, every soul, every fleeting moment. So, if you ever see an old, twisted clock with hands that seem wrong, don't touch it. Don't even look too closely, because the moment you do, it begins to watch you. Tick-tock, tick-tock. And once it starts, it never stops.